Hello and welcome to a Facebook Live with David Saville
Hello.
and myself, Richie Watson. That's the first time I've ever introduced us.
It is. How's it feel?
In all of weird and uncomfortable. Can we do it the other way around again? Can you do it?
Sure. Welcome to a live with Richie Watson and David Saville.
And it's weird you not being here because I don't get to point at you. I don't. Okay. Hello, my lovelies. Okay, so the theme of this Facebook Live, and it's going to be strong. We just know it is. This is the second Facebook Live David and I have done in probably well over a year. Really? Well over a year.
Yeah.
And what that means is we're going to have a lot to say and a lot to share. We particularly do at the moment. Now, David's taken a little bit of a social media break. Might need to reload the feed that Nathan says.
Oh.
Let me have a little look about what Nathan's saying.
Okay.
Why is that, Nathan? What's happening? It all looks good from here, my friend. Give me a few more details. Okay. I had to see you and hear. I had to. Oh, you had to reload. Okay, you're saying other people might need to reload. Okay. Hopefully everyone can see us okay. Let us know if you can't. As I've drifted onto Facebook, I can see there's a bunch of people that tuned in. So if you guys can say hi, write a comment because we see them here. That would be great. We'd love this to be interactive. We're going to be deep service right now. And Donna says we look good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Even David? Okay, great. Everyone can see us. Wonderful. Okay, guys, we're going to share, we're going hard with this, the truth about fear, just so we get those people, to go, don't you mean a truth about fear? We get to go, no, the truth about fear, because what we're going to be sharing is the truth about fear. This is fundamental, and the fundamental truth about fear has been missing from a lot of the guidance that's been shared out there at this time. I've seen so much of it laboring under a fundamental misapprehension about what fear is and what it's for. Okay, and basically anything that casts fear as the enemy is making a mistake. It's making a real mistake. And I'm sure you've seen there's been a number of Facebook Lives, a number of posts. It's just endless, really, talking about fear. It happened, I think, last weekend. That's when it kind of, right, okay, let's talk about this. And everyone was talking about fear, and I was getting increasingly concerned about what people were hearing. Dave and I are often very concerned about the guidance people are getting, because it often is either leading people in the wrong direction, or it's incomplete in such a way that it's causing a lot of problems. And what's been said so far that I've seen about fear has been at least incomplete. So fear is not the enemy. Fear is not the enemy. And if we see fear as the enemy, we're going to be creating a discord within us. We're going to be creating so much of the struggle we're looking to avoid. And it's insidious sometimes how fear is presented as the enemy. It's done, I've seen it in ways this subtle, which is fear wants to go unseen and be hidden. And it's David and I thought it's the most bizarre idea we've ever heard. Like, just think about this now. And this a lot of people are engaging with this idea that fear wants to be hidden, it wants to be unseen. Now, if fear is hiding from you, then it's already in an enemy dynamic. It's lurking to strike. And it's just not true. Fear's mechanism necessitates it getting your attention. That's what it's there for. Fear's there to get your attention. I mean, it's a big feeling. Fear. It doesn't lurk and hide. It wants your attention. And it wants your attention to be of service to you. It doesn't want your attention to make life difficult for you. These inner matrices that we have are all there to be of service. So when fear grips us and says, take a look at this, it's doing it to be of service. It's doing it because it wants to bring our attention to something that we may want to be aware of. So the truth about fear is not our enemy. Fear is more like our best friend, because that's exactly what a best friend would do. Best friend is, hey, I think something here could be a threat to you. Take a look. Right?
Damn right. And also that's why the fear as opposed to hiding, it actually gets louder, right? If you ignore it long enough, it gets bigger, and it's why, my social anxiety, for instance, when I was growing up, turned into panic attacks, right? Because I was ignoring every circumstance that it was warning me about. And so what would a best friend do? If you actually care about someone and there's something they're doing that's harming them, you would want to more strongly over time get louder and advise that person to do something else, right? If you're concerned enough, if you care enough, that is, of course. And fear, of course, exactly, best friend, strongest ally. And because of the nature of it, it's not disguising itself, right? It can just come and hit you suddenly, right? Like, in fact, I was thinking about this as when we're considering what to share here. I had such a terrible relationship with it. It was my enemy for most of my life, growing up, which is one of the strongest reasons why I had such a horrific experience of just normal situations. And I had evidence of me ignoring it to my detriment. I remember I was like, how old was I? I was like 13 years old. I was out with some friends. We were in Leytonstone, and we were walking to this estate. Doing the various things that teenagers do. Something didn't feel right, and I wanted to leave, but I didn't speak up. And I was like, I just decided, I'm going to ignore that. And then we got mugged. People were like, they robbed us and stole almost all of our money, except a £5 note I had tucked into my jeans. And luckily nothing terrible happened, apart from someone just had a knife and threatened us. But it could have obviously been a lot worse. And that was just one example, right? One example of fear being there, saying there's something wrong about this environment, me ignoring a sensation and not even using it really. I didn't then check in and go, okay, I'm feeling something. Is this safe? And look around. Right? None of that. No. Blinkers on. We're going to continue doing whatever we decided to do already, without using that in any way.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Fear is a part, we need fear to create a good compass. We need fear to get clear. We need fear to know what action to take. So one of the things I've been seeing a lot is, and it's very misguided, and I'm going to speak to coaches for a moment. People have been jumping straight on this emotional transformation work. And now is not the time for that. There's actually I just want to say welcome to a bunch of guys. Welcome Carly, welcome David, welcome Claire, welcome Diane, welcome Lisa, welcome Nathan. Thank you for joining us. Stick around, because we're already establishing this is going to be strong. We've got a lot to share of massive benefit, not just to you, but those around you. And we would invite you, if you're finding this to be of service, is to invite people in to watch this, to share it on your profile, because we really want to reach as many people as possible with some guidance that's going to be really helpful at this time and going forward beyond this time. Okay.
Yeah, just to acknowledge, we have people from all over the world already beginning. Like David, for instance, is in Thailand. He's there and he's on lockdown, and there's no flights out. So his situation is very different to others. But obviously, the fear situation is very present to him in a different, in a very real way.
We're in, we what was it? We arrived on different ships, but now we're on the same boat. I lost my thread there, David. Okay, yes, what people are saying. Okay, so the transformation work. Just speak to this for a moment, and to everybody, but coaches that may be watching, it's misguided. In a situation of real threat right now, where we need to become informed and clear and know what action we need to take, and then to follow through on that action, it is not the time to be doing emotional transformation work. That's not the time. When you start a Facebook Live and start to take people through processes to ease their stress, anxiety, and fear, you've got no idea what's going on for them. Are they fully informed? Are they taking all the precautions they need to take? It's not the time. It's not the time. That time can come. But in the early stages, especially when we're seeing that people still aren't taking precautions, that people are still unsure about what's happening, there is one simple message that we need to share as coaches, as people that work with people in any realm of transformation, and that's inform yourself of what precautions you need to take and follow through on those precautions. That's the first point. And so we're going to say this now. Okay, we encourage that everybody is as informed as they can be, understands what it is that's being asked of them, and to follow through on that. That's the least that we all need to pay attention to. Okay, and for that reason, we want to get this healthy, like David was talking about, when you deny fear and ignore fear, it's not a healthy relationship with fear. And this is the problem when you see fear as an enemy. If fear is an enemy, well, you don't want to be near your enemy. You want to get away from it. So you will avoid it. You'll avoid fear. You'll pretend it's not there. You create all this denial and resistance of fear, and that causes all this struggle. Instead, what we need to be able to do is acknowledge the fear. We acknowledge the fear. We become willing to be in it and with it. And once we do that, rather than creating this discord, which you're doing, if like, okay, I'm afraid, but I don't want to be, and I'm not, and I shouldn't be, and I'm going to go into these coping mechanisms, that's creating all this discord and struggle. The moment that you turn into it and are willing to go, okay, there you are, fear, you exist. I acknowledge you exist. What is it you want to tell me? You're bringing yourself into alignment. You're bringing yourself into a coherence. You already feel better. Already feel better. And, this is something we encourage you to check for yourself. I mean, right now you're listening going, yes, this makes sense. So it's very important to start from that place, because if you're skipping that, then you're dragging that discord into the next place. You're dragging that. So there's plenty of emotional transformation work to do with these processes and visualizations and techniques, because you're skipping the fundamental step that you need to take, which is acknowledgement and using of the fear. Fear is not our enemy, it's our best friend. First thing fear wants is your attention. So give it your attention. And now we may hear, but doesn't energy go where your attention flows? It's like, look, there's truth in that. There's truth in all sorts of things, but they're not entirely true for all circumstances and all things. And this is why we've been very clear with this title, The Truth About Fear. The truth about fear is it's there to be of service to us, and we need to acknowledge and use it. We need to leverage it. And in doing that, we create a healthy relationship with fear. And then through the actions that we take, we integrate fear in a really healthy way. So I was having a conversation with someone the other day who was very much in the fear is the enemy, fear is the problem. And I said, look, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid right now. But when I became aware that there was something to be afraid of, I was. Now, on the spectrum of fear, I would call it concern, because I've got a very healthy relationship with it. I was concerned. So then what did my concern, my fear lead me to do? Okay, I need to be aware of what's going on. So I find reliable sources. What's happening? Oh, it's this. What do I need to do about it? Okay, I need to do this. And so I start with acknowledgement, the willingness to be in and with the fear, to pay attention, to go, okay, what is this? Then I use the fear for what it's for. The action is, number one, become informed as fully as I can be. Number two, follow up on the precautions I'm being advised based on the information I'm learning. And once I do that, I'm taking fear on this constructive journey which leads to an outcome. I'm not afraid anymore. I don't feel stressed. I don't feel anxious. I feel clear, and I feel empowered, and I feel present. And I feel more empowered, more present and clear than I did before the process began. And now, as well as feeling good, and as well as feeling clear, and as well as feeling powerful, I've also done the things I need to do. Very importantly, I've done the things I need to do.
Quite useful.
The person I was having a conversation with hasn't been doing any of it. And now at this stage, I think, whereas in the early stages, we could have some ideas about, oh, it's going to be fine. At this stage, I think we realize that these precautions need to be taken to whatever degree. But there are people who have died. We're seeing it now. My family doctor has died. My family doctor, 76-year-old man, has died from coronavirus. Now, he contracted it from somebody. Somebody sneezed, somebody coughed, somebody carried the virus. Somebody was a link in that chain that led to this man's death. This is very important. And this is why we don't look at this scenario and say, okay, everybody, you're feeling anxious, visualize this, count like this, breathe like this, what color is it, where is it, and all this kind of stuff. We first and foremost say, okay, are you feeling anxious? Okay, well, the anxiety is there to bring your attention and awareness to what's happening. Inform yourself fully from reliable sources and make sure you know what you need to do. Then do what you need to do. Do what needs to be done. That's the first fundamental process we need to go through when it comes to anxiety, fear, stress in real life situations. We're not talking about phobias here. irrational fears. These are rational fears. There is a threat. So we need to acknowledge and use that fear. And I hope that's making sense for everybody so far. David?
Mm. Yeah, because it's important to understand this is, so we're in unprecedented times, and I've been a bit slow to the party. Well, that's the wrong word. I don't want to say party. That's minimizing this, right? I've been slow to the awareness of the seriousness of the situation, right? For many reasons. One, I've not been on social media for many weeks, barely at all, apart from to post something about Corona after we'd had a conversation. I've also not been paying a deep attention to the news or anything for a while because I've been focusing on my own health, actually, my life, my family, and other things. My attention's been elsewhere, so I was behind. And then for me, I was at the gym. It was last week actually, so things were heating up, but I was taking precautions like washing my hands before I enter, not cleaning the equipment, all that kind of stuff. But I remember I was in there training, and I just suddenly was gripped with like this fear inside, like my heart was pounding, and I'm like, immediately I'm like, what if I've got it now, right? What if this is it? What if my body's heating up because I've now got it? And what if I've exposed myself unnecessarily, which means I can now take this back to my mum? Yes. And so that being there, I had that, and I just stopped everything and just felt that. And then I knew what I needed to do, right? It's like, okay, this is unacceptable, what I'm doing right now. This is an unacceptable risk. I need to leave. And so I left, and by the way, when I did that and I accepted it deeply, I was no longer afraid, right? There was a certainty of just, this is stupid what I'm doing right now, and then of course I became more informed. I did more research afterwards just to make sure and that's been a continuing process that's still evolving, right? Since then, seeing the high capacity, or the sort of lack of capacity in the NHS now, because people have been careless and not been taking care. The fact that one of the reasons why this is so bad is because whereas the flu would normally infect one other person, maybe just 1 to 2 other people, this is 3 times that. So it means that one individual can infect 3. And as you go through 10 incarnations of that, that's 59,000 human beings that have been infected because of your lack of consideration and care and willingness to take precautions, And the thing is, it's like most people will probably be okay, but the few percent that aren't is still thousands of human beings, that we're talking about over the next few years.
Like you say, not just the people that get sick from it, it will impact. I'll give you an example. And this is a big deal, so for everybody that was trivializing this and ignoring the guidance, this is the situation we're in. My cousin has cancer, and she's receiving chemotherapy treatment for her cancer, which has successfully treated her cancer in the past. She's now been advised to not go in and have her chemotherapy because of the risk. That's a person's life in the balance in an enormous way that potentially can be prevented or lessened. So the situation is enormous, and what Dave and I are saying. What we want to give is this enormous gift of being able to have the healthiest relationship with fear, which means you get that clarity and you can make these decisions, and you can be, because everybody I see with a healthy relationship with fear, and I'm not talking about a normal kind of like healthy relationship. I'm talking about an extraordinary healthy relationship with fear. Myself, David, and some others, people that have really got their shit together. Now, all those people are doing the same thing. As soon as they became aware, they became informed. And when they became informed, they did things about it. And they did that process very soon from when they became aware, very early. I was aware first. I watched a podcast with an epidemiologist. That was when I became aware. After that, I made a post. David saw my post. David then became aware. David did exactly the same thing. Without conversation, David did exactly the same thing as I did. And the reason being is because that's what you do with fear. Everybody else I'm aware of as has a healthy, integrated relationship with fear did the same thing. And it meant they were kind of the early adopters of advice. Nobody I'm describing was panic buying. Okay? Nobody was doing that, because that's another. There's two sides of this coin of having an unhealthy relationship with fear, an unintegrated relationship with fear, and that's panic buying and the apathy, trivialization, and denial. These are 2 sides of the same coin. And what's happening here is that if you consider fear to be a navigation system, the panic buyers are letting the navigation system drive. They're just letting it drive. The people that are in apathy, denial, trivialization, they're ignoring the guidance altogether. And so the midpoint here, the integrated step, is to take the guidance of the navigation system. Okay, don't give it the wheel, because you'll have too many toilet rolls. But don't deny it, don't trivialize it, don't become apathetic, because then you're going to make mistakes. You're not going to know what you need to do. You're not going to know what you need to do. So Sam's sent a message here. It says, I think there's a fine line between reading to be informed and making those. I think there's a fine line between reading to be informed and making those choices. But some people in the fear mode are continuously reading and searching for answers. Okay, so there's no fine line with what we're saying. If you take these steps in the way we take them, then there's no fine line. You simply, I'm afraid, you acknowledge the fear, you acknowledge anxiety, you acknowledge the stress, you acknowledge what it is, the reality around you, the reality you're experiencing what your attention is being drawn to. And then you inform yourself. Now, informing yourself doesn't mean reading a bunch of media sensationalism. That's not what that means, especially at this time. We have access now to expert guidance, reliable expert guidance, epidemiologists, virologists. These guys are on podcasts. The Joe Rogan show, the biggest podcast in the world, had Michael Overhelm, I think it was, Osterhelm, epidemiologist. He's very clear. It was very measured, no sensationalism, just this is what's happened. It is something we need to take seriously, and these are the things we can do about it, and these are the very important things we need to do about it. And that was very helpful. Every single day there's been a press conference from the government, and it's astonishing to me that people aren't watching that, because this is the government informed by science saying this is what's happening, this is what we need to do about it. And so I've been watching that every day. No news source, no newspaper, nothing else other than this and the occasional, okay, pay attention to this virologist, this epidemiologist, what they're saying, okay? So and when you do that and you follow that, now you might be scared about what you hear, but what you need to do is you need to take action on that fear. So, okay, you need to be with it and in it to acknowledge it. And I'm not sure if I've understood your message completely, Sam, so you can clarify for me, because I wasn't, on the wording got me kind of confused. Reading to be informed and making those, reading to be informed and making those choices by some people. Okay, there's the final, again, if you're taking these steps and it's integrated, okay, Sam saying, I'm not talking about me, glad to hear it, Sam, but I'm seeing people getting themselves too stressed with all the social media. Okay, so when we don't take these steps properly and fully, see here, David talks about creating a loop. There are open loops. I like the idea of like live wires. We've got similar metaphors for this. So I'll go with mine first. When something comes up and there's fear, it's like a live wire, and you need to do something with it. Now, if we're not doing what needs to be done, which is connecting those live wires and creating a completion, and that's what we're talking about, acknowledge, use, leverage, take action. That creates the completion. That puts the live wires together, and there's a completion. Okay, that means the fear isn't haunting us and coming back anymore. If we're not doing that fully and properly, what will happen is the fears keeps coming. So people keep looking at news stories, looking at this, but they're not deep enough going into what they need to. Am I fully informed here? Do I know what action I need to take? Am I taking that action? That creates a completion. Now, after that, if some fear comes up and says, take another look, that's for you to then reflect. Have I informed myself enough? Have I followed through on the actions I've learned I need to take? And then so you're repeating the process again. So that's what we need to do. And if you haven't done that, then it's highly likely you're going to stress out, you're going to be anxious, you're going to dive into all of these things. They're going to get you more stressed. So people are scrolling, because inside them, the mechanisms inside them are like, you need to pay attention, you need to do something, you need to pay attention, you need to do something. So unintegrated, it's just playing out. It's playing out unconsciously and scrolling and stressing, the stress scroll. But if we follow these steps, and they're very simple, acknowledge and use, leverage, then we will everything will just relax.
Mm.
Okay, so but I'm seeing people getting themselves so stressed with social media. Completely agree. Find the informed, true post, but so many aren't exactly. And we need to start disconnecting from that stuff, and we need to go to the reliable sources.
Yeah.
And even to be honest, Sam. So this is true for me, and it may well be true for David. It doesn't matter. I'm seeing sensationalism. I'm seeing scaremongering. I'm seeing misinformation. I'm seeing conspiracy theories. None of it is invading my space. Kind of, some of it might be interesting. Some of it might be ridiculous. But none of it is invading my space, because my space, I've taken this journey completely, and then I've retaken the journey completely if need be. And so Sam's talking about a metaphor that me and David have given before, knocking on the door till it kicks it down and slaps us in the face. So the idea that fear is a messenger delivering a message, and we are going, get the hell out of here with that message. We're not opening the door, and they keep coming back, keep knocking. The messengers crowd until there's 1,000 outside the door, and then they kick your door down. Like Sam says, slaps us in the face, but makes a mess of the place. And that's stress, overwhelm, anxiety. You've now got all these live wires, these open loops, these messengers, these messages that haven't been received, and it's incredibly stressful, and it's overwhelming. And what we need to do first and foremost is we need to acknowledge the emotion. We need to acknowledge the fear, and we're willing to do that. We're far more willing to do that when we realize that our fear is there for us, being of service to us, not being our enemy, not fighting against us, but they're being of service for us.
So there's so much actually it's emerging here, but there's some nuance to be added, actually acknowledging it. So one of the things that can prevent us from acknowledging it is rushing from one thing to the next. So you may hear something, maybe the government message, and you feel the fear, but then you immediately go on to something else, and so it's slightly different, and so then that's attacking it. Then you're feeling that coming in, and you get, so what's happening is you're just all these live wires are opening up, and there becomes you just have no idea what it's actually for anymore. That's how it becomes a mess of live wires that are tangled within you, and then you can't even have ordinary conversations with people. It affects your relationships, it affects your choices, like the panic buying, right? The freaking out there, instead of actually, because of the thing about the panic buying as well, a lot of the time people are not taking the precautions when they're doing that. They're still too close to people. They're not washing their hands thoroughly before they go in. They're not,
Yeah.
So the things actually that would, if they'd have paid attention, would have protected them, are not in their awareness at all. And so the acknowledging part of it, it's so important that you're giving the time to acknowledge whatever that is for you, just to feel and experience, and then just experience what it is that you need to do, because it's pretty obvious if you're not rushing onto something else. And another thing that can get in the way is if you're busy and maybe you've got other things that you're doing that day, and I'll just quickly check what's going on, and you scroll very fast, it hits you, you can't really take in the information, so the fear's there, the information isn't clear, and you carry on with your day. So you're then carrying this live wire into whatever you were already doing, instead of going, actually, I'm going to give time to this. I'm going to, the beginning of the day, middle of the day, whenever it is you choose it to be. It's like nothing else exists right now, right? No one else exists. Nothing else exists. I don't have anything else drawing my attention. I'm going to give everything to this moment. And then by the end of this, I'm not going to go and do anything else until I've made a decision about what precautions I need to take for myself, my family, for others. It's so important we slow that down. Because that creates that urgent feeling, doesn't it, of like panic. Now, when it comes to fear, it can often feel urgent, but it's only urgent in emergency situations, which there are people in those places. That's very true. But a lot of us, and many watching us, aren't in emergency situations. Like, it isn't life or death in this moment for most of us. We are very fortunate, which means we can slow down, take this moment, receive the feeling, receive the information and all of it within, and then take the actions that we need to do. Close, like that live wire closes the loop now. It's done. we're no longer fearful anymore. We have done something meaningful, which has actually made our lives better, which has protected others as well. And then we can carry on with our lives. And one other thing, which I think I'd like to share before maybe you want to jump in here, Richard, again, is that whatever is happening, we are, each of us, capable of handling it. It may be scary. We may even, some of us may die, right? We don't know enough about the virus to know if we were to get it, would we die or not? Would the people in our homes die? We don't actually know yet because there's so much unknown about the virus itself, right? We can handle everything that we handle until the day we die, because we are human beings. We are powerful. We can live the best life we can up until that moment comes. And it's we can't ever know when that moment is either, right? But it's very important to know that you can handle everything that life gives you if you listen to the way we're talking to utilize fear.
Yes, because think about it for yourself. What happens to an emotion, a difficult emotion, like a painful emotion, terror, absolute terror? What happens to it the moment that you're willing to experience it? What happens to it the moment that you're willing to feel it? It changes. It's not breaking you down anymore. This is so important. And this is why we're so passionate. This is why we want to give this message not only to everybody watching, but also those who are in a position of teaching and coaching. It's very important. The gift of, okay, it's okay to feel this. It's okay to feel this. First and foremost, let's feel this. Let's be willing to feel this. It's a massive gift because it is the fundamental first step. It is solving so many problems. It creates a foundation with which you can then explore any kind of transformation work. But the discord that we are dragging around from avoiding how we're feeling and avoiding the truth within it, because the truth within it is that you feel it. You know, that's the core truth within your emotion, is that you feel it. You know, people get of course, we're always looking outward and experiencing life. So we become quite fixated on the external. So it's like, hey, what's going on here? And you feel things about it. And something may have happened that upsets you or scares you. And you get very fixated. And of course you should, because this is what your internal navigation system is bringing your attention to. It's in relationship to this thing that's happening. But being willing to experience our emotion isn't the same as going, I want more of this in my life. It's not the same as this is okay. Acknowledging and being willing to experience your emotion and accepting the truth within it, which is I'm experiencing it. Most people are fighting with the existence of the emotion. Now, you may need to fight with the existence of the thing out there. You may need to do that. But what will get you in a straight line, what will get you in a place of power and coherence, is not struggling with it here. It's like, I feel this and it's okay. No matter what it is, across the board. Someone's done that thing and I feel resentment and anger about it. Okay, that's okay. I feel angry. That's okay. I feel resentful. That's okay. You know, I said in one of my recent weekends, the reason that I'm so free is because I'm okay feeling anything. Like something's pissed me off, but I'm okay feeling pissed off, so I'm fine. You know, something make me angry, but I'm okay being angry, so I'm fine. You know, something's hurt me, but I'm okay being hurt, so I'm fine. And it's that willingness that really changes everything. And the deeper that willingness goes, the deeper your freedom goes, the deeper your clarity goes, the deeper aligned your compass is to know what it is you need to do and how you need to do it. So this is so important. Anna said something here, so I'll just come to this. When fear points to something you cannot control, i.e. someone else's lack of self-care, even before the virus, she's got in brackets here, her dad, how to process, I cannot change his behavior, I know, how to manage my stress. Okay, so we need to, I would say, David, to go back to the process we're describing here, which is, okay, first and foremost, am I doing everything I need to do? Okay, that's, so, because what may happen is if you've not fully delved into that process, you still may have leftovers of your own internal anxiety and fear surrounding that. Pay attention. Do you know what's happening here? Do you know what you need to do? That's it, very simply. Do you know what's happening here? Do you know what you need to do? Are you doing what you need to do? You need to revisit that process and go, okay, am I fully informed? Do I understand what's going on to the best that it's possible to understand it? Do I understand what I need to do to the best it's possible to understand what I need to do? Am I doing that? Is there more I can do? And you go there first. That helps with, because what you're doing is you're doing what you need to do and what you're meant to do, which is ensuring that what you're doing is the best that you can do. Then from that place, you are clearer and you're more able to influence and interact with others based on what they're doing. I've done it myself. There were members of my family that it wasn't clicking in for them yet. And I had to hold a space where I had a clear conversation. And then they continued in their kind of approach and attitude to it, which was one of some dismissal. So I continued very clearly saying, this is the situation. We can't put our head in the sand over this. We need to make sure we're doing what we need to do. And I was able to hold that space because of how integrated the process was for me personally first. But if I'm carrying my own stress and anxiety over it through these incomplete loops, then I'm not able to hold that space, have that conversation very well. That, as I see, is the best thing we can do, David.
So I had something a couple of years ago, actually, something came up with this with my aunt. So she'd been diagnosed with lung cancer, and her daughters were particularly like, okay, she needs to have an operation. That's what must happen. My aunt was extremely scared. She was like terrified of, or even having the biopsy. Like, she was scared that she would never wake up, and it was freaking her out. And so she came to me. We talked about this. She wanted me. I think she wanted me to sort of let them know it's okay. That she doesn't need to. Right. I think that's where it was coming from. What I said to her is this: we don't know. Let's get the information, because she didn't really know enough about it yet. So you don't know. So my thing was this: okay, the way I can help you is to let's go find out what's going on. Let's have the scan fully. Let's go get the results of the scan. Let's get the information from the doctor. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do, but let's be fully informed so we can make so you can make the best decision for her. So my role really was helping her to decide what she wanted to do. That was my role in that. Now, I don't want her to die. I mean, I was thinking actually probably the best chance might be surgery, but I didn't know yet because I didn't know the risks involved, right? What I do know is I want her to live, is what I did know. When we were actually with this doctor, and they said where it was, and they talked about the fact it could be operated on. Obviously, there were risks, but it was possible to remove it completely from her body. My sense is I really wanted to have that done, but that's not for me to decide in that moment for her, because it's her body, right? It's her cancer, it's her risk, and the fact is she may not wake up. But and her daughters were like, you must do it. They, like the urgency of like, this must happen. One in particular, and my thing to her was, well, she may not wake up. That is a real risk of surgery right now. We don't, the fear wants her to survive, and the doctor's saying she could survive and she could be free of it, but she could also die. Do you want to, it's not up to you to decide that for her. What we can do is be here for her, support her, and help her make an informed choice. Now, I didn't know what would happen. I didn't know what her choice would be. I just wanted her to know that whatever she chooses is correct, and I'm here for her in whatever way she needs me to be. As it turns out, what we started to do was go to natural things like stop smoking, stop drinking, because those things are affecting you. I even got her these turmeric things that have been shown through evidence actually to help this kind of thing. So we started to natural things is what we started to do through that process. I mean, I was shocked. She stopped smoking, stopped drinking, was doing the protocols, and then she decided on her own she wanted the surgery. She wanted to be free of it if she could be, because it was in a lobe that could be removed completely, and that's what she did. And I didn't know that would happen though. She may have made a different choice, but my willingness to experience the fear and to experience the pain as well of what could happen, and to not to feel it so deeply that I could then be free to be there for her, meant that I could be there and she could feel that support and care, and she could make a true choice that was empowered and her choice is what that was. I mean, I didn't know that would happen. It's one of those life tests, I didn't know that I'd be able to do that, because I've never had to do that in that way before. Not since I've evolved in the way that I have, especially with my relationship to emotions and fear. But it was amazing. The transformation in her was amazing. Now, of course, she may have continued smoking and drinking. She may have allowed herself to die, right? I couldn't have controlled that. What I could control is my experience of what's happening by allowing myself to experience it, and then to help her make the choices that are right. And as a, it's one of those moments. I'm like, okay, that was beautiful. You know, it was really beautiful, unexpected and beautiful. So you can never know how your own transcendence can impact others. You know?
Yes,
that's why the work is with us and with our relationship to what's happening.
Yeah, because you can't until you've done that, you can't anticipate what solution may come, and you can't anticipate the influence that you can create through embodying the solution. So that's really, really important. You know, we need to embody it first. We need to embody it as best we can. We need to be in the process of embodiment. It's not like we need perfection before we can create positive influence, but we need to be in the process of embodiment, the process of integration, and then we can actually best serve others. And firstly, just by being an ambassador for it, because when you have it embodied, when you're embodying solution, you become an invitation to that solution. Just by people being in your presence, witnessing your behavior, witnessing your attitude, your approach, your calm, your courage, you become an invitation to those things, to those qualities. And so we really must do that first. And then with our words and our actions, they carry so much power and potency. And it's surprising. It's surprising. It becomes very simple as well. It becomes everyday. It becomes the everyday extraordinary David and I talk about, where these things, these confrontations and these problems that can drive people crazy and be splinters in your life for years are resolved within a few minutes because you've been able to hold that space and have that conversation in the best way you can. So I'm gonna come to Anna here before you, Con, and then come back. Thank you for all your comments, guys, and anybody there, please, whether you're watching us live or after, please engage. Please take this opportunity to be with us. Anything you say or have to share could be of deep service in our response, not only to you but to everybody else that's paying attention as well. Okay, and this is beautiful. This is exactly what Dave and I wanted. We wanted this interaction. So thank you. So Anna responds here. I am continuing the conversation, highlighting risks, etc. I think it's about knowing I'm doing all I can, as he argues back, and he feels he's doing enough for himself. I have to accept, as I can't control him. Absolutely. The only healthy thing to do. Because, well, in this situation, it's complicated because people's actions are affecting other people. People taking personal risk is actually usually creating high risk for those around them. Usually it's a good place to come to of, this is this person's choice. I don't get to choose for them, and I have to accept that it's their freedom to choose some things that perhaps I know aren't good for them because it's their life. Now I can hold this space and I can say what I have to say with consideration that it's not my choice, that it's theirs. For the most part, not for all things, but this is for the most part, this is a good approach to take. Now at the moment, as you say, Anna, absolutely. You have to know that you are doing all you can and to reflect back and see if that's true. And don't be afraid of discovering that it's not. You know, there's this place we get to, if we haven't got a courageous relationship with fear, then it's like, okay, let's not open that box just in case I find out that I could do something differently or better. You really want to know, like all self-development, no, we really should have a hunger and eagerness to find out where we're making mistakes so we can learn from those mistakes and correct them so our life gets better and we become more. We should really have that eagerness and that hunger. But in this situation especially, we have to be willing to find out we're doing something wrong or not doing enough. So it's good to reflect on that. Let's not be complacent with it, and let's not go, okay, you know, in a self-justification way. We don't want to rest on those kind of impulses. We want to actually look and be willing to find out, am I doing everything I can do? Take a look at that. Then the peace of mind comes, and it really comes, because if it's not true that you're doing all you can or you've done all you can, if it's not true, but you've just kind of like sealed that box because you don't want to go into it, and then you walk forward, you're going to be dragging with you the signatures of emotion that are asking you to take a look, and you'll be robbing yourself of peace of mind, powerful peace of mind. But yet, if you're willing to go into that box, take the gaffer tape off, you know, look at it and go, actually, have I done everything that I should be doing and can do? Then what you will get from that is clarity and powerful peace of mind. If you're in a situation where there's no influence, you simply, you know, you're not going to get anywhere with someone, then you have to find your peace with that. It may be in these circumstances we have to be more forthright than we would do ordinarily. You know, I have been with certain family members. I've said, no, I insist on this. This is too important. I've been through the process of sharing what I think. I've been through the process of encouragement of what I feel you should do, and what I would do, and what I feel is the right thing to do. And then it may have come to the point where that's not been listened to. I've said, no, I insist this needs to happen. That's been a process for me to go through, because it's not a comfortable place to come to. It's not the place I want to come to with people. In all areas of my relationships and my work, really what I want to do is to give people the gift of their own freedom that they have anyway, and not try and come from a place that I have the right to take that away. But this circumstance is different. It may come to the point where you have to be very forthright with somebody, and that forthrightness may help save their life or other people's lives. So that may need to happen. But in short, what we're not doing is going to the external, which is I'm uncomfortable. I've not integrated the process for myself properly yet. I'm not doing everything I need to do, but I'm going to kind of fixate on these people around me instead. Very normal, very seductive. It's insidious and often invisible. So pay attention that that's not what's happening. Clean things up for yourself first as much as you can by actually really going through this process that we're encouraging. Then come to that place of influence and interaction. Okay. She's said that's very helpful, David, for some reason. I think
my name when I shared my example about my aunt.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to come back to Colin. Colin, welcome, Colin. I try to find ways to help others as that helps me add value. I also find it useful to put this stuff in perspective. For example, you might be gutted that you can't meet up with friends, etc. However, we have food on the table and roofs over our heads. Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, it's been a time of deep appreciation. Of course, me and David have joked, I've been training for this my whole life. I've periodically not been able to do much because of my health troubles, especially when I was younger. And actually over this last 2 years as they resurfaced, so this is all a walk in the park for me. And for both me and David, actually, it's very straightforward and simple for us. And perhaps we can open that up and talk about, those things we've been thinking about in regards to that. But yes, gratitude, appreciation, so much. I mean, to be in a country right now where there is so much support being given to the people of this country is so beautiful. I feel so blessed to be here, so lucky, so appreciative. And if there's anything to be proud of your nation, it's what's happening right now and that support that's coming. It's really wonderful. There's going to be areas of the world that this is going to be really difficult. It's going to be difficult here, but there's going to be areas of the world that haven't got the kind of support because they haven't got the infrastructures that we have in our culture. So that as a culture, I'm really appreciative for, that my community, my extended family, which is my community, is being protected as best that they can be. And when I look in my, these four walls, I have food, I have a house, I have a garden. How awesome are gardens?
Yeah.
I mean, really, how amazing are gardens? We don't all have them, but for those of us that have them, what that is, Emily's outside in our garden, which has a trampoline in it, and she's having the best time. Great days in the garden. We've been playing football before here in the garden. She's got a great kick on her. She really has. Those strong gymnast legs, man. She's got a great kick for a 10-year-old. Really has. There's so much to be appreciative of. This I've been saying this. This is the best time in history to go through this.
Yeah.
We're literally positioned as best as we possibly can be. There's Netflix. We've got Netflix. Yeah. We've got Zoom. We've got this. We're connected right now. This is the best time for this to happen. We are so blessed. What we don't do is disappear into the fairy tale, rainbow, glittery land of, this is inherently a blessing. No, there's people suffering and dying, but we can create blessings from it. We can create good of it. No matter what the tragedy, we do have the opportunity to create something good of it. That doesn't make the tragedy good. We want to be clear on this because this is some pseudo self-help and pseudo spiritual stuff that flies around. Whatever good that's created of something doesn't make the tragedy untragic. It doesn't make it good. It makes you good. It makes what you've created good. And that's such a difference. And it's so much more potent because it really is about you. It's about me. It's about us. It's about our choices. It's about what we do, how we turn up and what we do from this, how we can make the best of a terrible situation. There is so much to that. And man, every single one of us, we're here because of the courage and character and sacrifice and ingenuity of our ancestors, of all those that have come before us. It's just extraordinary what can be created through adversity. We have been created through adversity. We've been forged in it. And we're going to do that with this. There's going to be technologies and systems, philosophies, all sorts of friendships. There's going to be all sorts that's going to be created from this. That doesn't mean this is good. That doesn't mean that this is, some kind of like beautiful gift that Mother Nature is bestowing upon us. Am I saying the right word? bestowing upon us.
Bestowing, I think you mean.
Bestowing, yeah. Upon us. It doesn't mean that. It means that shit happens.
Yeah.
And no matter how shitty the shit that happens is, we have the opportunity to engage with it in the best way possible so we can create the absolute best from it. Doesn't make it good. It's still tragic. So it's acknowledging that too. This is something people struggle with, Personal tragedy happens and we're told that we're meant to see it as a blessing because these spiritual ideas, these pseudo-spiritual ideas and pseudo-self-help ideas. And that tears people in two because they don't want to see it as a blessing. They want to see it as a tragedy. And that's right to see it as a tragedy. It is a tragedy and I'm going to do my best with it. And I'm going to create something good from it. And that's what leads to the peace you're looking for. Because when you have done your best, when you've done better, when you've improved upon what you've done and you've done better and you've created something that's good and you've got through something that's difficult, there's self-worth there, there's peace of mind there. But if we're trying to conceptualize the thing itself as a good thing, it creates this discord. It's so wonky and it robs us of that opportunity to connect with that peace of mind and that self-worth, which should come from the traversing and growing from adversity. So I think we've got Nicholas has come along. I've got a few comments. Keep them coming, my lovelies. This is wonderful. Really, it feels like we're being of service. This is what we want to be able to do. Nicholas, a colleague from London, said out of the blue yesterday she wanted to come and stay at mine last night. Straight away, she wouldn't explain what was going on for her. I just stuck to saying no. There is an epidemic. I sensed her potential panic. And I felt my own anxiety revving up as I wasn't sure what was going on. Wow, that's a big experience, Nick. And what you've done there, okay, is you've just said no because right now the information you have is this isn't a good idea and we're being asked not to do it. And this is dangerous. This increases your risk, it increases her risk. And if she's coming from somewhere she is now to you, who's to say she's not going somewhere else afterwards? The information you have at the moment says that this is a no. And if she's not forthcoming in explaining why this is a need for her, you've got to make that decision from the information you have. This is something important. Now, compassion can be a dumbass. Compassion can be a real dumbass. And, we often hear that compassion is always the right thing. It's not. It's absolutely not. See, you might feel this feeling of compassion. Oh, someone's in trouble. I need to let her hear. Now, that's not the correct decision. That's not the correct decision. That puts you at risk. That puts her at risk. That puts unknowable amounts of people at risk. But your compassion will lead. And compassion's just like fear. It's bringing something to your attention. Okay, this is part of your navigation system. But neither one is an absolute. Neither one say, right, this is absolute. This is the truth. No, this is interpretation. You're interpreting what's going on. You're getting the emotional response right to this. There's some compassion that can come up and say, oh, I should bring her in. It's no, that's not a wise choice. Let me clearly define why compassion, because we're told this is the problem with all of these ideas and these memes is they become embedded as unconscious beliefs and we play them out and that's why our life gets driven in circles and cycles in the way they do. When a child is sitting with a puzzle and they start to struggle when they can't get it right, we feel compassion, and that compassion may lead us, if it's not integrated, may lead us to going and intervening and doing the puzzle for the child. And this happens a lot. You can see these impulses playing out in child-parent relationships all the time, everywhere you go, okay? Now, compassion is saying, help, they're struggling. That's what compassion is saying. But if we take some courage to be still with our own emotion and look through the lens of wisdom, we can see that, well, hang on a minute. what does this person actually need? What does this growing human need? Well, they need to be able to have a healthy relationship with their emotions. So they need to be able to feel them to a degree. They need to be able to solve their own problems. So wisdom says, don't just jump in and intervene on every single challenge and struggle the child has. Sit back and see if they can solve it themselves, or if you can support them solve it in such a way where you're not doing it for them. Okay? So that's the difference. Compassion needs to be counterbalanced with courage so we can come to wisdom. Yeah. And there are so many experiences like this. There's an elderly couple across the road here. I got Compassion spoke to me the other day. Compassion said, "Well, there's an elderly couple there. Are they okay? Are they being cared for? They're people they're in contact with. Do they know what's happening?" Compassion's telling me to go over there and knock at their door. Okay. And that's not the right choice, because I don't know if I'm carrying this. And I don't know if I could then go across the road and kill my elderly neighbours. So you see how compassion can only be the right course. It can be absolutely the wrong course, if not counterbalanced with enough courage to be able to feel what we need to feel, and then come to a place of wisdom, and come to a place of right action. Okay. So, Nick, with the information you have, you're making the best choice you need to make, which has taken some fortitude, has taken some forthrightness, and this is what we need to do at this time, and that's okay. If there's some information that comes your way, some context which makes sense of why it is you decide to take that risk, then maybe that can change things. But until you have that information, you have to make the best decision, and that's certainly the best decision.
And also,
I would say.
And also, as you were saying, we are able to communicate through video. That's like people have it on their phones, right? Most people have that facility. So you can. This is. I've coached people all over the world that I've never ever met, and their lives have changed. In amazing ways, because it's as close to being in person as you can get, really, without being in person. Which means that if this person wants your support and is willing to have that kind of conversation, perhaps there's some connection and support that can be had in a different way than she perhaps wanted. There's a lot that can be done just through this kind of medium. So just be aware of that too. Maybe if it feels right to you, is to reach out to her in a different way and offer service in a different way than perhaps someone wants. That's also a good way of you being compassionate. Well, I don't even think of it as compassion personally. I think of it as something else, being of service, to someone that you can be of service to. It's like, I can't be of service in the way you want me to. Maybe there's another way, So maybe there's something more to explore there. That might be worth asking.
So I would say, actually, that's a good point. Being of service is informed by compassion, and it's informed by courage, because if you were just to be compassionate, like we said, that isn't always of service. Being of true service is actually, this is the art of coaching isn't to solve people's problems for them. It's to help them become the person that can solve their own problems. So the art of coaching is actually a balance of courage and compassion, which then leads to wisdom. So being of service needs wisdom. It needs wise choices. It needs for not just being led by the impulse to kind of do it for them, or think what it is that should be done and just do it. That's not being of service. This is different. Why we use the word service, Dave and I, not help. That's why whenever I say self-help, I'm being critical, and when I say self-development, I'm actually talking about things that really work, because the whole premise of help without some nuance and context is deeply flawed. Service is something different in the way we're saying it. Service is comprised of these places: courage, compassion, and wisdom.
Yeah, just another example, really, of when compassion actually ends up killing without meaning to. When it comes to the elderly and people who can do less. And then people are like, "Oh, don't get up from your chair. I'll get your tea, and I'll get this for you." So this person just sits in the chair all day, doesn't ever get up, doesn't ever struggle to get up, doesn't use their body and their muscles in the way that they could, has everything brought to them, feels good about that, because this person loves me, I feel supported, wonderful. Meanwhile, the legs have got weaker, body's got weaker. There was things that person could have done that now is incapable of doing. So the person wastes away in the chair. It's a very common thing. I did some of that with my dad, actually. Sometimes I didn't, and I was very good at getting him to do things, and other times I did too much for him. I didn't have the balance right at all, you know. So it's a very important thing. Compassion can kill without realizing it.
Yeah, it's actually an approach in elderly care homes. It's to not do for them what they can do for themselves. It's not necessarily adhered to, I wouldn't imagine, everywhere,
No.
but it is a common philosophy. Because it's difficult. This is the thing. It's difficult to not surrender to your compassion. It's difficult, especially when we're being told that compassion is always the right answer. It's not. It's uncomfortable to feel bad about something. It's uncomfortable to suffer because someone is suffering. That's why it's courageous to hold that feeling. That's why it's courageous to hold that pain, that suffering yourself, so you don't do something which actually increases someone's suffering, which actually makes the problem worse. So that idea, which, you know, is spoken in care homes, it sounds cold. Don't do anything for them they can't do themselves. It sounds cold, but it's not. Obviously, it could be done with coldness, but it can also be done with an enormous amount of love. Enormous amount of love. In fact, you know, the deepest expression of love is self-sacrifice, and deepest expressions of love are holding suffering in order to be loving. So you don't just spill what you're feeling into the world around you. You do what you decide is the best thing that you can do, and that comes from holding the suffering first. So not doing for them what they can do for themselves. It can be applied to children, but actually it can be applied to everybody, every
person.
With some flexibility, of course, because, you know, when I make someone a drink, they can make themselves a drink, right? But it's like, this is the problem. You can't be coaches all the time, because then it's like, you make me a drink. No, I can't. It will weaken you. It will weaken you. Where it ends. There's some flexibility in our social worlds, but with these kind of important elements, you know, these are good guiding principles. So, Carly here. Actually, I'm just going to come to Nicholas again, because he's commented in response. What Rich says is so fitting to my experience. Thank you both so much. That's good, David. We both got mentioned by name. That's nice.
That's very nice. I feel validated.
Balance. Nobody knows us personally anymore. Okay. So Carly here. I'm pregnant, and some days I'm so positive and thinking I'm doing everything I can to protect others and myself and my baby. But today I'm really fearful of what's going to happen when my birthing time comes. I've planned for another home birth or birth centre birth, but that might not be possible now. I'm fearful of what will happen if I have no choice but to go to the labour ward. This means an increased risk of medical intervention, and also now an increased risk of this virus that I don't really feel we know the whole truth about. It's just the furthest away from what I had hoped for this pregnancy and baby. Really, so much love to you, Carly. Okay. Now, what David and I have to contend with in this world that we've stepped into to be of service is the fact, and it's a very bitter pill, that sometimes there's no ideal scenario. This is something we really struggle with, and it's takes an enormous amount of character and courage to acknowledge the reality of reality, which is sometimes the ideal scenario it's missing. The example I give to this, because it's a very clear example, is that when my nan passed, I was 18 years old. I went to visit her in hospital, and because I was 18 and I didn't have the character or the courage, or I didn't have any integrated relationship with my emotions as such, I wasn't able to bear her suffering. So I was there for a few moments and I left. It was the last time I ever spoke to her. Said a few words. Last time she was lucid. That woman was like a second mother to me, and she passed away. And when I came to the point of holding that regret, because regrets are good, regrets are very good, regrets are wonderful ways to ensure that you don't make the same mistake again. When I came to a place of holding that, and there was no ideal, she was gone. I couldn't correct it. It was done. I had to accept the tragedy and become strong enough to hold that and become the person I needed to be to never make that kind of mistake again. Our minds will race to ideal scenarios and they'll fixate on them, and they're not possible. You know, that's what our mind will do. And if it's not doing that, our mind will avoid looking at it altogether. You know, right now you've detailed your situation. You're not avoiding looking at it. That's one wonderful thing you're doing, one courageous thing you're doing. And now it's a matter of looking at and using the fear, acknowledging the fear for what the scenario is, what it means to you, and then looking at what your options are, what they actually are, from top to bottom, from the best case to the worst case. What are your options? And then you can orient yourself and navigate yourself towards that best option, because the ideal may be out of reach for you, and it looks like it possibly could be. Okay, this is what it means to be human, everyone. This really is what it means to be human. This is why we're being underserved by a lot of the fairy tale guidance out there. What it means to be human is to be able to be courageous in times of great challenge, to be able to accept that which we don't want to accept but exists, and be able to do our best and become our best from whatever's happening. This is our great noble adventure as human beings, and it's fucking hard. But the only thing to do is to do our best. It really is. The only thing to do is to step forthrightly onto that path, because it means that you can create the absolute best of the tragedy, and it means you can be the absolute best because of it. And along the way, what always comes is all of the gold that we're looking for from within our own soul. And the gift that you can give outwardly into the world, to your family, to your friends, to your community, to strangers, the gift that you can give becoming that person to people that perhaps haven't quite necessarily begun that journey or got far enough along it yet and are really scared and don't know what to do. The gift you can give by being that person is immense. This is the gift that, with great humility, David and I have walked a prickly path, a bunch of them, very spiky, prickly paths. And we've come to the place of being able to give these gifts for ourselves, for our families, and for as many people as possible. Carly, I'll say again, so much love to you, because that's a really difficult situation. I hope in what is a very scary time, what we've said here and what I've just shared is of service to that. Okay, use your fear for what it's for. Use it constructively. Acknowledge it. Use it. Come to knowing your options as best you can, and then orienting yourself towards the best options for you, while being prepared for those options that aren't necessarily the best.
Yeah, I just add one small thing to that, actually, which is when you do this and you embrace the fear, you experience it fully, then you're able to connect to the wisdom by informing yourself and making the best choices possible. It also enables you to connect to a more creative part of yourself too, which means that options that you may not be able to see suddenly become revealed to you. Things that seem like you just can't possibly be aware of, suddenly are able to. So there may be something that might support you that you may discover through this process.
Yeah.
On the other side, we can't know what that is. It's not for us to come up with our version of that or anything, but it is for you, and it is there for you in some way.
Wonderful. Yes, thank you, David. So Donna says, absolutely, I can make my own dinner, but you're cooking it later. Oh, that's in response. I'm capable of making my own dinner, but you'll still be doing it later. This is factually accurate.
Wonderful.
But, what I'd like to, David, thank you so much, man. I love you so much. I love who you are. I love what you bring to my world. You help in having the connection we have. You challenge and support me in the best possible ways to mean I can be my best. And you know, there's no one else in the world I would have reached out to and said, "Hey, let's say something," than you. So thank you, my friend.
Welcome, and thank you. And obviously, it's reciprocated completely.
Obviously. I think, yes, I think we're ending it because we're going to do this again, aren't we?
Yeah. We just had a message come through from Carly as well. Yes, thank you both. So you're very welcome, Carly. Thank you for being so open with us here and for engaging with this, because it's you know, it's hard and it's important, and it's beautiful that you've chosen to do that. So thank you very much.
And I'd just like to repeat that invitation. If this has been of service to you, please share it out. The wonderful thing about this is you share something that's of service to you, someone else connects to it, that's going to be of service to them, and that ripple effect is just unknowable. It can just go on and on and on. Yeah. So please, guys, if this has been of service to you, please do share on to those around you. Yeah. Thank you for being here. We may be doing this again perhaps next Saturday. We'll let everyone know. Perhaps if you'd like to be kept up to date, I think there's an ability to go click onto something, which means you'll be notified of whenever I go live. So you can do that, and I'll be sharing on, you know, updating on Facebook and social media when we're going to do our next one.
Yeah, thank you for being here.